Hi everyone, welcome to this session today. I'm Alistair Lewis. I'm an architect and founder of AD and AEC Tech Hub. I'm the host of AEC Tech Futures, which is our YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us today. This session is being recorded and streamed live on YouTube, LinkedIn and Instagram, so you'll be able to catch up, and the recording will be available afterwards. If you have questions during the session, please add them in the chat and we'll collect them and address them during the Q&A at the end. Right now, we're seeing rapid progress in 3 areas. So automated drawings, AI-assisted design workflows, and automation across documentation and coordination. But the real opportunity isn't just individual tools, it's how tools connect together into workflows. Today, we're looking at how Ideatura and Markedup can work together to accelerate the process from design to coordinated documentation. And here's how the session is going to run. We're going to have a short introduction from our guests, and then we'll do a 5 to 10 minute demonstration from each of their platforms, and then a short discussion about the workflow, and then we'll finish with audience's Q&A at the end. So, Andrea, would you like to go first and introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Alistair. Super excited to be here. Hi, Arvinder. Hi, Chris. The idea is that I'm going to keep it super short. My name is Andrea. I'm an architect, co-founder of Ideatura. If you cannot tell, I'm Italian, but I've been living in the UK for the past 15 years. Heavy Revit user for the past 10 years, and I'm trying to scratch my own itch, trying to automate very boring, repetitive tasks in the context of drawing production. And Ideatura is the company we started a year ago. It's basically a chat interface that bolts on top of Revit and allows you to basically talk in natural language and create automations on the fly. Help me create automation for grids, help me set up some drawings, help me create some views, help me batch renaming, help me query the models. There are a bunch of features that hopefully we'll be able to take you through today. That's it. Chris, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. I was waiting for the talking stick to be officially passed. Thanks, Andrea. Hey, everybody. Great to be here. Thank you, Alistair, for hosting this. I think it's extremely important. I'm Christopher. I founded a company called Markedup. Similar to Andrea, probably all of us have war scars and wounds from being architects and general contractors. In particular, mine was counting door tags and making sure that details have call-out symbols and call-out symbols have details and all the very basic things. Actually, the founding story of ours is that my younger brother, Harry, made a $100,000 boo-boo because he didn't know any better. And I was just blown away. This is only 2 years ago that there wasn't anybody trying to solve this. So that's exactly what we do. So we built some technology. We'll show it to you in a minute. Drag and drop a PDF. We check it for problems and we send it back to you as a marked up PDF. It's a very clever name. And we do that because this is a massive problem and a huge pain in the butt. And I'm sure if anybody else has done this in the crowd, it's extremely boring. And so it often gets missed. So lovely to meet you all. And again, looking forward to the session.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I've made one of those mistakes. Not quite that expensive, but I've definitely learned in the past. Arvinder, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hey guys, yes, I'm Arvinder. People have probably seen my face here before. I'm an architectural designer with about 6 years of experience. I'm working at Walker Consultants in Chicago, but I'm also unofficially doing software engineering for them, where I've helped develop internal tools. Outside of my work, I've been experimenting with some AI tooling myself. So nice to be here.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, fantastic. Right, so let's get going to show people some things. So, Andrea, do you want to start off and run through Ideatura? You should be able to share a screen, and I'll add that to so everyone can see that.
Yeah, of course. Just want to be sure I'm clicking the right one. Is the screen plus with the plus symbol at the center?
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. Share the screen. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There you go.
If I have 10 minutes, I think I'm going to spend 1 minute taking you through the problem and what we're trying to solve and how we're trying to solve it, and the remaining 10 minutes actually on a quick demo of the product. Ideatura is about drawing automations. at the moment. We're bringing AI into your Revit workflows, and our main value proposition is faster drawings, fewer errors, and less repetition. The drawing bottleneck is a real problem. Everyone knows it. It's a shame when like time and focus of an architect is actually spent on this low-value repetitive work. We have been talking to hundreds of architectural practices by now, and this very manual process we know is very costly. We're talking about hundreds of hours lost on setting up these drawings manually. There is inconsistent output across the teams, people with different levels, Revit skills level within the software that usually calls errors and misalignments, and costly rework. And we measure that roughly for every 10 people in the industry, 3 or 10 people within your firm, 3 are spending their entire year just producing drawings. And that's not just a shame in terms of direct impact on the firm profitability, it's also like a tragedy in terms of like capacity for creative work. When we are doing door tags, no one else is actually creating better buildings. The basic value proposition is time saving here. With our tool, we can create this kind of dimensions, and I'll show you in a second, in 5 seconds and a single command, instead of maybe spending 10 minutes or 15 minutes doing hundreds, if not thousands of individual clicks throughout the model. This brings an acceleration in delivery and a level of consistency that was not possible before. And the way it works, I'll probably skip that because I'll show you the tool, but this is the fundamental outcome you can get from our tool. We can create views, we can create sheets, we can batch rename, create dimensions, and place some tags, as well as some new cool features I'll maybe show you. That's it. That's the quick PDF presentation. I think I'm going to jump straight into the product at this point. You guys can stop me at any time. I guess I will take some questions later on, but this chat interface, you can access it directly inside of Revit, of course. You simply press Ideatura button, and you can ask something like, what can you do for me? Some people really struggle with a blank canvas. They don't know what to ask, so just ask the tool what it can do for you. And the chat interface will take you through some of this example. I can help you setting up dimensions, views and sheets, do some inspection of the model, some general automations for batch renaming, for example, etc. You can create a new chat and ask, generate some prompts to test dimensioning tools. And the AI will generate some examples that you can actually send back to the tool itself to start experimenting with some of these automations. The basic example I will take you through is this is the classic Revit sample file. Everyone has seen it. Is the usual 3-story building. We just pushed it a little bit further because we created a bunch of angled walls, linked files. Let me see if I can select it actually. There you go, linked files, and a bunch of drawings, all nicely renamed and with some consistent layout. I'm going to show you a quick drawing. This is fundamentally the output of the software at the moment. And I'm just going to pretend I'm one of those architects that has no idea how to use Revit. I'm going to start destroying all my content. All my sheets are gone. Or my beautifully renamed RCP with cropped views are gone. Or my floor plans are gone. It's all gone. Large plans and a bunch of room elevations, maybe 100+ elevations in here. All destroyed. And ideally, within a couple of minutes, I'll be able to recreate all, and by the way, all my dimensions. Select dimensions across the entire project. 100 dimensions in this case, not that many. I'm just going to remove them all. So we're back to the basics and a bunch of tags. Tags can go as well. Right. At this point, you can simply ask to the tool to create some automations for you. Basic grid dimensions. Create grid dims. I'll keep it super short and to the point. The tool will take roughly 30 to 50 seconds to create an automation for you. In the background, the AI is understanding your request, is slowly planning how it's going to build that automation, and then it's going to return you a button. We fundamentally built, like people can obviously look for different solutions. There are a bunch of plugins in the industry. You can go to Autodesk Marketplace, or you can buy some tools from other providers, or you can simply go to Ideatura, and we are a plugin that builds you plugins. So instead of going looking for different solutions, you can simply ask the chat to create an automation for you. As I said, let's give it roughly a minute. For context, the chat has okay, almost there. You see it's telling you basically what are the fundamental steps that it's taking. And the chat has memory, meaning that if you're not, okay, I'm just going to simply run it. If you're not happy with the initial results, you can keep on iterating. You can send another message. There you go. In this case, we've created some basic grid dimensions around our plan. If you're not happy, you can keep on modifying this prompt. You can say create 2 strings of DIMs, 1 overall, 1 capturing every intersecting grids. Use offset, I don't know, 1 meter and 2 meters. And it will basically remember your previous message, remember the automation that it was able to create, understand your new context, and update this new automation to actually achieve what you're asking to do. I'll say, there you go. It's now drafting the new automation. I'm just going to cut it short for the purpose of this exercise. Once you're happy with the automation, you can simply save that automation into your own library of tools. In this case, I'm going to save it to here, Ideatura. I can access my own libraries. You usually have your own account and a company account. And then you can distribute all these automations across a bunch of folders that you can structure, organize, rename yourself, where you can basically create automations just for dimensions or create automation just for views and sheets, etc. Just to run a couple of other examples, I'm going to select these dimensions as well. I'm going to destroy them. The real power here is that, first of all, you can, let me see, bottom left. You can create automations that make sense, first of all, exactly to your practice standards. You can place dimension grids on the bottom left, or you can ask to place dimension, let me see, 2 dimension strings across all sides of this particular view. There you go. Maybe you have automations to create dimensions for your internal walls. I'm going to run a basic one, current view. Or maybe you have an automation to create dimensions for your external walls. Maybe you have an automation to create views, to rename sheets, to batch process that information, following your particular standards. There you go. In this case, we created dimensions for internal walls, etc., etc., etc. The main point here is that I myself am a fairly traditional Revit user. I've been a Revit user for the past 10 years, but I cannot myself create a powerful demo script. I definitely cannot code in C# or Python. I can do a little bit of vibe coding. That's what I'm doing these days. But with this new tool, I'm able to create hundreds of possible automations around the context of helping you with dimensions, views, sheets, etc., many other features that we're now building, which basically democratizes access to the ability to create these automations and brings a level of standardization across the practice that was basically unexperienced before. This is the idea of the product. I can run a quick automation where I'm recreating all the views, for example. So let me see if I can find views. I create a single room plan for the current view. This one. This one is looking at every rooms in the current level, grabbing all those rooms and creating a large room plans for every one of those of those spaces. You can automatically suggest to give a new naming convention to all those views. You can automatically apply view templates. And you can do the same things for ceilings, elevations, sheet creations, and then automatically, there you go. We have created a bunch of rooms. Just checking. Yeah, the right view template has been applied. The right naming convention, which in my case is room plan, room number, room name. And we can do the same thing for our RCPs. How are we doing with time? Should I cut it short or?
No, all good. Keep going. It's all right. We've got time.
Of course. Here we go. We've just created another roughly 30 RCP plans. By the way, just going to show you a few of those. all nicely wrapped around the actual room boundaries, which is something that could be very time consuming to do manually.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna go back to, where is it, level 1. Close a bunch of views just in case. And now I'm gonna do the same thing for all my elevations and my sheets. Elevations. This one is creating 4 elevations for every single room. So 100 plus views in one shot. Once again, nicely renamed with the correct view template. Done. And once we do that, we can also obviously create a bunch of sheets. Same logic. Create a sheet, A0 format for every single room in the space. Done. All batch processed in one shot. I wonder if I need to rename those though. I have an automation, a separate automation in this case to automatically rename all those sheets to my particular naming convention. And then the last step is fundamentally try to place those sheets. I'm gonna grab, let me see if anyone can spot cafeteria. There you go. Empty sheet. I can go here and suggest let's see if it's going to run, because I was rebuilding this automation literally an hour ago. Oh, should have cropped that view. Gonna go back to one step. Grab my floor plans. Be sure they are cropped. Ceiling plans. Crop notation visible. Once again, going back to my cafeteria sheet. Run the same automation and automatically placing those views into sheets. And with the same logic, you can ask, hey, please help me dimension all my grids, all my levels, help me add some door tags, etc., etc., etc. This is roughly where we are taking the product at the moment.
Yeah, that looks incredible. And what I find quite interesting about it is actually the consistency you could apply across all of your projects, because you could say, this is how we dimension, this is how we annotate, this is how our project should look, and you could use this to then coordinate that across different teams, because one of the things practices find is all the information looks different because different teams are working in different ways.
Correct.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you. Okay, Christopher, would you like to continue the workflow and show us how Markedup can then do a QC process on that?
Absolutely, and I think that the imagination here is that Andre has done all this work to prepare this design, and we're about to send it over to the client or the GC because they're going to go bid this thing. And what we're trying to make sure is that it's good. We haven't missed anything, so that we look really professional, and we've done an excellent job. Right? That's the whole thing. Hopefully, this doesn't give you or let me know if you can or you cannot see my screen.
Yeah, all there.
Yep, perfect. So this is Markedup. Just go to the website, Markedup.ai. It can't be any more simple than that. We're actually going to log in here, create a free account if you want. I already have one, naturally. And so, again, I talked about this before, but we're looking for basic types of drawing areas. So I'm on a laptop, so I'm just going to zoom out a couple clicks. But we're just searching for the most basic of drawing issues. The idea here is that a human should know when or how you can build it and how to design it, how to make it beautiful, how to make it functional. But then spending that time, just like what Andrea is doing in Ideatura, which is so cool that all that can just be standardized and done with a click. It's a similar kind of thing. Nobody's counting door tags. Nobody's checking that call out symbols are correct. And so this is really the whole entire workflow that we've built. So here we are, Markedup.ai. I'm going to kind of do this like a cooking show, where I'm going to take this drawing, which Andrea kindly provided to me. So this is the drawing set that he was using all of his prompts in order to annotate, and we're actually going to check it. And so I'm going to just take the PDF, drag it and drop it here. There we go. Oops. And I'm going to check now. It's going to go back and get me a page count, and it's going to take me through a couple of prompts. We tell you what we're going to check for. I personally hate checking for callouts. I'm sure that project margins love it though. So I think that's a critical distinction. We're going to add a little bit of information here. So Ideatura, this is the ARC set, and maybe people like Rev 1 or something like that. We're going to save and pay. Now, I joke that this is my not so secret code. So you're all welcome to give this a shot. We would love your feedback. Or you can become customers and get as much as you want to eat. But this takes about 30 seconds per page. We'll check for a number of different things, and I'm going to send that off. And that's the whole part of the process. In your email, you're going to get a couple of notifications, receive your drawings. Your drawings are now being processed, and a final email, which is let's download your drawings and let's check out the Excel report. And your final output will look something like this. So in this case, this is the Revit U-shaped building. Back in my Vico days, we had the L-shaped building. So I'm glad that we've progressed to a couple of more sides. But in this case, what we're looking at here is all the different callout symbols and tags. And just like a human would do it, let's kind of zoom in here. I know it doesn't really matter. We can say on A147 that details 3, 5, 4, 6 do indeed exist. So if I just jump to that, you'll start to see that is, indeed those elevations do exist for that area. Let's go see if we can find some other stuff. So again, we're just using these bounding boxes as a way to track and change. So I can see here, I'm getting a couple errors. What's going on here? So 112 is missing from the schedule. So let's go check that out. What else we got here? 112, 111. So we got some tags that are missing. 110. We're going to go check these against the schedule. And what else we got here? All right, perfect. So yeah, here we go. 107, 106B. So points for people that are writing these down. But let's jump back to sheet 1 and have a look. I'll at least remember these last two, 107, 106B. So we'll come over here, 107, no 107, no 106B. So indeed, in this case, these door tags are missing. I don't know about you guys, but if I had to go through and check at least all the callout symbols, maybe that I'm fast at it. So it takes me 30 seconds each. It takes me a minute or so to go find the door tags on the 32 pages of this drawing set. But this would have taken about 12 to 15 minutes for us to process. And I can't remember the final count, but it was at least 100 call outs. And if those took a minute each, that's an hour and a half of my day spent doing brain numbing work versus doing other more important thing, winning more jobs, actually tightening the design, working closer with the customer or the client to build a better product. So all those things are, I think, more important than counting tags. And this is exactly what we've solved for. Alistair, I'll hand it back to you, man. That's us.
Okay, that's really great. Thank you for that. I mean, that's super short. It's really good because it's the sort of thing that saves us so much time on a workflow. I think that's really, really helpful. I am just going to do a quick thing first, and then we'll get into the discussion. So let me just grab an image I wanted to share because we have got something we've launched in the launched today, basically, from our sponsors. So before we move to the Q&A, we've got today's sponsor is AC Tech Jobs, and there is a structural issue in the industry that many people are starting to recognize, that the best software companies do struggle to reach the right talent, and many architects and technologists can't discover these companies because they don't know they exist. So what we've created is a website called AC Tech Jobs, and that is essentially an environment for people to find these roles. And we've launched the partner portal today. It's not just a job board, it's a focused hiring channel for content companies, giving them direct access to professionals who understand the industry and the tools being built for it. So we're really delighted to have it launched today. And you can have a look at that now on the website. I'll share a link in just a moment. So if you're building software in the AEC space, it would be great for you to have a look at this and explore the portal and see how it might work for you. Okay, that's my bit there. I'm going to return us back to the conversation now, where we have got some questions, which is really great. So let me start with that, and I'll bring them up on screen so we can see them, so we can start discussing them. Okay. So Timo has said, what's the difference between this Ideatura and an MCP server connected to a LLM like Claude? That's for you, Andrea.
That's for me. Yeah, of course. I think it's very good that you try both, right? That I don't think you should go blindly into Ideatura or blindly into just trying to connect Claude to Revit. Both have their merits. I'm obviously going to explain what I think makes us different. With the setting up of Claude, there is quite a bit of manual work, and you need to be fluent enough to actually understand setting up these accounts, create your own API keys, and in itself trying to figure out what the tool can actually achieve on their own. With us, you get a one-click installation software that you can give to everyone within the company. We have built our own guardrails around what the tool can do and cannot do. So you're much more reliable. You're not taking the chances on AI going absolutely crazy and creating, freezing your model and creating thousands of dimensions or thousands of views, or, any sort of risk that, a simple Claude MCP will give you access to. And one of the main fundamental differences is that this is a product for entire architectural companies. On your own, I think it's worth to try both. But if you're an architectural firm, what we really bring to the table is the ability to catalog those automations and very easily share it across the different team members. That's maybe one part that I haven't shown you with our tool, but once you've saved an automation, you can simply upload it to the company folder where everyone else can start using it. Creating an environment where everyone can test the tool on their own and then create something cool and useful, and they can simply say, hey, check this automation I've just created. Maybe it could be useful in your project as well. And the idea is that a BIM manager can then look at that information and structure those automations for everyone to share. That is one of the main differences.
You're muted, Alistair.
You're muted.
Sorry, what I was saying is that this is what I think is really powerful about it. It's that standardization and consistency across an office, across locations. You can say, look, this is how we work. This is what we want our drawings to look like. It's incredibly important for architects to have consistency. So enabling that, I think, is really helpful. And
maybe on that topic very quickly, like as we're talking to architectural firms, everyone has Dynamo scripts. Everyone has some Revit automations or some obscure plugin they found that could be particularly useful. The problem is how you scale it across a company. And that is one of the limits that we're encountering everywhere. Like Dynamo users are the 1% of the Revit user industry. Yeah. And the remaining 99%, they remain basically at the doorstep. Other elements of standardizations that we're looking at introducing now, for example, is the ability to attach a PDF to the chat interface. You can simply upload your BIM execution plan or a screenshot of some standard naming conventions, and you can ask the tool to replicate those within the Revit file itself. But by all means, Timo, feel free to reach out. I can set you up with a quick demo, and then you can make a judgment yourself.
Okay, all right. Let me jump into another question. So it says, Pavel's asked, which AI model are you using?
It keeps on changing. The short answer is that we use an orchestration of different AI models. We are not just using Claude. We're not just using OpenAI. We're not just using Gemini. It really depends on the task, and it really depends on which part within the software stack we're using different models.
And Christopher, is that the same for you?
Yeah, we don't rely. We rely very little on LLMs. One thing that we've observed a lot of is that they're just not very good at identifying teeny tiny shapes. And one thing, we're all construction architectural professionals. Like if you zoom out on a electrical drawing, it's just full of teeny tiny things. And so we rely a lot less on that. But in a similar way, we've built some orchestration between computer vision, OCR, touches of LLM, which I call LLM as OCR, and some other algorithms, like classic machine learning. I think that's like, you got to demystify the reality of Claude's going to fix everything. And like, no, these are like technical drawings, and trust is key. Trust is accuracy in this industry. I don't know about you, but if actually I'll share this because it's an anecdote. One of our customers frequently tests other software, and the results that they got back were like 20% right. He's like, I spent an hour and a half going through mostly trash. And he said, oh, that really frustrated me. I'm never going to try that again. And I think that that's the risk of maybe prematurely trying to use an MCP layer and trying to figure it out in Claude. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh gosh, like I'm not a machine learning engineer that understands all the bits and pieces to get this done properly. That's literally why I'm building Markedup, and I'm not speaking for Andrea at Ideatura, but that's literally why he's building that company, so that we can build these things as enterprise grade applications.
Arvind, I wanted to pull you in here and just see, because from your experience of working in practice, how do you see these tools assisting the teams that you work with?
I mean, this is just to reiterate that problem that Andrea and Christopher started with. You know, we as architects are spending a huge amount of time on these low value documentation tasks. You know, just dimensioning, tagging, all of that stuff takes a lot of your time, but not just time, but energy. You know, it's boring work that makes you honestly duller throughout the day. And then you know, that's Andrea's kind of tool helps with automating some of those tasks there. But then, you know, QA is another beast in itself. You know, we're always saying in our company that we need to do more QA. We need to do more QA, but it's never the priority. It's always on the back burner. And the biggest reason is we just do not have the time to actually go through every single drawing, every single view, make sure, you know, like Christopher showed, you know, the doors are all tagged and they're all aligned with this, what's in the schedule, or the calls have real references. You know, there's so many of those that we have to go through. And actually, interestingly, I was going through some sort of a, you know, insurance training at my work, and they mentioned that I know everyone had to go through, not just me.
Fun.
Yeah, it was quite fun. The biggest reason for claims, insurance claims, was you know, misses in the drawings. Like that is a huge category that people forget, and that's usually you know, usually had been historically fixed through peer reviews and pinups and whatnot, which these days we just don't have the time for. So, you know, the tools that both Andrea and Christopher are making would provide tremendous help with both of these. Now, obviously, there are limitations to these tools. You know, you still need human oversight in both cases, I'm assuming, right? Because whatever product we're putting out there as architects, we are responsible for. So yes, the tools are amazing to have, and they would really help us increase our productivity, increase the time that we can get something out the door, or sorry, decrease the time that we can get something out of the door. But we still at least need some sort of a human, you know, to go through and just double check certain things, maybe make sure spot checking, you know, making sure that certain things were done right. That's my you know, one I guess concern with these, that some people may start to rely heavily on just I guess forgetting that these tools are making changes to your drawings. and you should double check, what those changes were and be careful when using them. That doesn't mean in no way that you shouldn't be using tools. We use them all the time. It's the same way while driving, right? Driving a car is dangerous, but you need to understand all the rules that go with it, and the productivity that came up with, having a car versus riding around a horse. Were tremendous, and I see these in a similar part.
Yeah, really good. Okay, I've got another question here. I'm going to show it through here. So, are there any limitations on the size and complexity of the model for things such as dimensions, Andrea?
So we've been working on projects as small as a single terrace house and as big as an airport at the moment. Obviously, you do encounter some issues when you're trying to dimension airports, or when you're trying to dimension enormous structures with irregular shapes. It's very difficult to say exactly where the limit is, because it could be your own convention of how you're creating that information that might not work well, or the way our systems understand those Revit elements. Or it could be that our software is not good enough yet for incredibly large projects. Like the last one that we're going to test it on is a 2 gigabytes Revit file. I didn't even know that was still possible, or like that people will build like such an enormous Revit file.
Yeah.
So short answer is ping me up, send me this enormous Revit file, and we can test it together.
Yeah, okay, that sounds really good. Yeah, and Christopher, does that apply to you as well? So with Markedup, is there a kind of limit on the number of drawings or PDFs that they can kind of go through, or is there like a sensible number that you divide it into packages maybe?
No, I mean, yeah, we have a cap of 200 megabytes as a single PDF file. We have noticed that the upper limit on an architectural set or a structural set independently is probably about there. But funny enough, we just had somebody reach out and they're like, what about a 500 megabyte PDF? I was like, all right, let's go for it. So we'll figure that out. So it exists. There's demand for it for ginormous projects or super DPI, high DPI drawings. So I think that these are all the things that we have to consider.
Yeah, and there are giga projects around which demand, like an airport's going to be a good example of that. There will be thousands of drawings you'll produce for an airport. So yeah, there will be examples of that. Okay, all right. Next question is from, I know we did that one. Hang on a sec, sorry. It's from Luca. How does Markedup deal with privacy due to NDA projects when uploading project docs online?
Great question. So we can't touch any of your data. Everything's encrypted in transit and in rest, and then all data is deleted after 7 days. So the only exception to that is that if, in our case, we're given express permission to view your drawings, then we would have to download them and view them. So that's when they would be kept. But yeah, that's it, Luca. We try to make it it used to be 24 hours, by the way, that we delete everything, but then people complained that was too short. So we settled on 7 days. Seems like a reasonable amount of time to download everything.
Yeah, okay. Andrea, I don't know if you've had kind of privacy or security questions, because plenty of practices are grappling with, we've got this data, these projects, they're under NDA, how do we manage that? How do we keep it secure? Is that something that you've come up with?
I'm probably just going to share my screen just for a second, so it's easier.
There you go.
Right. Your project data is secure and private with us. We do not share anything with the large large language model providers. All the automations are happening locally inside of your Revit file, of course. We are GDPR compliant. We are Autodesk authorized developers, which means that we are trusted by Autodesk to actually build a plugin and create something that makes sense within their platform. No long-term project data retention, unless it's something that you specifically want us to do to achieve better results on certain automations. And everything is reversible and low risk. Eventually, what happens is that once you start interacting with us and we are doing a pilot, or we're giving you access to the tool, you can check our terms and conditions and our EULA, and everything is nicely laid out in there for you to revise.
Great. I mean, that's really excellent from both of you, actually. And it's such a key question for many practices. And yeah, that's great that you've kind of got that sorted. All right, next question. Does it work for MEP or construction drawings? I assume that's for you, Andrea, but it'd be good to
check on both.
Markedup discuss that as well.
Don't need to share my screen. Yes, like it doesn't really make a difference for us. It's a bunch of Revit categories. So we have the ability to create views and sheets for specific elements that are not rooms. Rooms is just one of the most tedious and simple example where you need to create elevations, plans, and sections, etc. But you could do the same thing around specific generic model categories, MEP categories, structural elements. You can simply ask to create views for those elements and sheets for those elements as well. When it comes down to dimensioning, it's a slightly different discussion, but we can now dimension most elements within Revit anyway, not just walls, doors, and windows, or grids and levels. So Pavel, happy to talk to you as well. If you want to test some dimensioning for MEP, we can do that.
Okay, let me move on to the next one then. You can specify tools in NCP as well as same as an add-in, right? Does that make sense?
So I think that's touching on us. Like I'm not sure if I fully understand your question, but yeah, of course, like what's happening in our tool. I don't know if you've seen it in the automations we were running. There are a couple of things happening. One is code generation, where we're basically writing an automation on the fly for you. The other one is that we have the ability to interrogate the model. That's maybe one that I have not shared. I'm going to do that once again. Sorry to keep on flickering.
Go for it. That's fine.
I think I was testing last conversation. No, let me see if I can quickly find it. Revit automation, Revit model audit. So before I was running this kind of automation that is starting to cover QA and QC. In here, I gave a very large prompt saying, help me analyze the entire Revit model, trying to find views and sheets, automation opportunities, inconsistencies, etc. And these are the tools that we were using. Some inspection tools, actually checking at all the information inside of your model, looking at all the views, looking at all the sheets, looking at all the families. So as you can see, it was running for a while, actually analyzing the entire model. And at some point, it's able to basically give you a structural report, a knowledge report, telling you how many levels, how many rooms, and the areas. It's still, at the initial stage, because it's not actually capturing all the room dimensions here. But you can start seeing the possibilities of using the tool beyond simple drafting and actually start doing some QA, QC with it. And to do that, you need to be able to interrogate the model with tools. Hopefully that answers your questions, Devansh.
Yeah, as always, he can reach out to you afterwards as well and ask, another question if he wants to, to clear that up. What if a company has its own templates and design standards? Will the drawings be created according to them?
Yes. So as long as you can attach text explaining exactly what's your naming convention within the chat, you're good to go. Yeah. Now we're trying to make it even easier. So you can simply click on the plus button, upload a PDF with your particular standards. The model will be able to interrogate the PDF with your naming conventions and your sheet structures, whether it's a PDF, a JPEG, a CSV file. You can upload that to the system. The LLM can revise that information, and it can use that as a knowledge base to actually help you renaming all your views, all your sheets, all your families, etc.
That's awesome, Andrea. I think same question applies to Christopher. If whether your tool can handle company standards, yeah.
I think that you said this before, or maybe it was Alistair, but like one thing that has not surprised me, but maybe surprised me more because it's my first construction project. I was building a ginormous hospital, so I just dealt with one architect for 4 years. So like I had very limited experience. Getting onto now this side where we're looking at kind of like a little bit of everything. Even within the same architecture practice, it looks like there can be like totally different design standards across the board. I don't think that that's a surprise, what we've had to engineer for is all of that variability and the endless number of edge cases. And like an example could be that, again, picking on door tags, because I think it is a massive pain point within this industry. You don't get it right, there are significant cost consequences down the road, which means that the architect and the general contractor is on the hook. So like that's a really big pain point to solve. But like in the same firm, they had 3 different ways of marking out door tags. In one set of drawings, it was a rectangle, and the other set of drawings, it was just a number. And in another set of drawings, it was the room number plus some other identifier plus a door tag number in like a box with like a grid inside. So like there's seemingly no design standard that I am aware of. And I'll give you another quick example because I just think it's relevant. Is when we were doing kind of the initial work on just like checking callouts, finding callouts and all the rest, I think we found something like 47 different styles of callout. And so like that doesn't become necessarily like it's hard to lean on one company's standards. So you just have to be able to handle for everybody's. Hopefully that answers the questions.
Yeah.
But yes, we'll check for all that. Yes, we figured out a way to do it.
Okay. I just wanted to put this up very quickly. Lucas said, amazing, thanks. That's to your questions. That's really good. And then I've got one final question here, which is from Michael. So have you tried this system on highly complex geometries, for example, an LOD 400 elevation of a historical building derived from a scan as a 3D model? This is kind of one of those, not necessarily an edge case, but it is a very specific example.
Yes, we tested exactly that and it works flawlessly. I'd like to tell you that. Obviously, that's not the case. This will definitely be one of those edge cases where the tool will probably break. It really depends on how this information has been modeled. Okay, if you're trying to create dimensions for walls, and for whatever reason, part of your facade is modeled as a generic model family or a model in place component, there is no way that the tool can currently understand that. Short answer, once again, I think we're happy to give it a shot. Mikhail, reach out, show me this elevation, and let's try and dimension it.
And I've always thought that BIM and modeling and using Revit for existing and historical buildings, there's so many opportunities there because most of architects' works is on existing buildings. So we need to get really, really good at analysing and annotating and updating all of these. And that's just the reality, particularly in the UK. We've got loads of housing stock that needs to be updated. We've got loads of historic buildings, and I mean that's the same in every country. And I think point cloud to Revit to dimensioning and all that. If we can smooth that workflow, I think there's loads of opportunities there. I've got one more extra last question that's come in. Can this automation create annotations from non-system families, for example, welds?
What's a weld?
Well, like a structural weld, like welding metal plates together.
Right. Not too familiar with the structural families within Revit. Yes, it's possible. Right. I can give you a much more basic example. We can dimension furniture, for example. We can grab edges of that particular geometry and create dimensions for those as well. If that's what you meant with annotations, obviously.
Yeah, I mean that'd be really interesting to see that because structural engineers produce slightly different types of drawings. I don't know, Arvind, if you have
we have our own trick in the background, and I'm not necessarily going to tell you how we can dimension all different categories and families, but happy to test that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, welding symbols, from what I understand, very, very specific symbology for those. Even a slightest little change means something quite different for someone on the site. But it is just an annotation family, like you said, Andrea. So if your tool can manipulate families, annotation families, and can understand what families are out there, and if you provide it more information about what the annotation types may mean, I'm assuming it may be able to. I like to think of your tool more like an intern. Like that's a way that people have described LLMs, right? where a smart intern, they completely understand the tool, the inside, outside of the Revit API, but you have to really describe kind of, well, maybe not for everything, but for edge cases like this, you may have to describe more specifically what you're looking for. And for Markedup, I'd like to think of that as like a service that you're providing in some sense, right? It's an agency. You're giving your PDF, and someone else as in like a digital being is doing all the annotations or checking the annotations for you and then sending those back. I actually had a quick question for you, Christopher. So given that we have to kind of upload our PDFs to your system, how long is the typical timeline for us to get that back?
It takes 30 seconds a page. Yeah, it takes about 30 seconds a page. So 10 pages, 5 minutes type of thing. We just, as of literally this morning, we are now in the Bluebeam App Store. So you can fetch Bluebeam drawings, launch them back into a session so that you can collaborate directly there. We're also part of the Autodesk Developer Network and Trimble Developer Networks. The whole vision for this, Arvinder, was that it was somewhat like an invisible utility, kind of like Grammarly. Like, we're not going to tell you how to write your email. We're not going to tell you how to design your building or your project. We're just going to tell you if you spelled something incorrectly. I don't imagine any of us would walk over to our library, grab a dictionary and check it. So that's the whole entire premise. So we'll build a similar kind of workflow with ACC, or Autodesk Construction Cloud, where you could have Markedup listening to a folder, fetch the drawing, mark it up, and push it back to wherever the ACC workflow would be. So really, it goes back to there's going to be no excuse not to check for the basics, and so that's what we're doing.
That's amazing.
Excellent. Yeah.
I mean, Bluebeam integration at ACC. That's like, so much of the industry is in both of those tools. And
huge.
Yeah, that's really cool.
I had one more. Sorry. For both of you guys. I know we're short on time, but I'd love to know kind of what's on the timeline for both these tools. What can people look forward to? Right now there are certain features that you guys showed, but then what's coming next?
Should I go first?
Right, go for it.
So there are a few moves that we're looking at. It's, first of all, either moving horizontally and trying to create the same tool for different architectural software. That's one major move. The other one is trying to expand within Revit itself more features, which is what we're trying to do now, trying to cover QA/QC, maybe compliance checking, maybe some detailing as well. And from a technology perspective, now I'm going to start posting some videos now of the new software, because we haven't really been showing anything over the last 2 months. But we're integrating also a VLM into the tool, which is the ability for Ideatura to fundamentally have eyes inside of Revit, not just looking at your parameters, but actually looking at the pixels in your screen and understand the visual context in which we are working. And that can have many applications, from something as simple as adjusting the position of tags so they do not overlap with geometry or with other tags or with dimensions, to something more elaborate, like the actual understanding of spatial distribution of your floor plan. That's what's up for us.
Love it. On our end, it's check more stuff. I don't think that what we're building has to be super complicated. This is all of construction. Sorry for I'm a BIM nerd at heart. I've been in the BIM nerd game since 2008. So it's been a long time that I've been doing this. But the reality is that on the project, when you get out in the field, everybody wants the 2D drawings printed, maybe on an iPad. I was part of that whole mobility movement in 2010. blew everybody's mind. And I'll tell you, most superintendents still wanted that stuff printed. But the reality is that all of it's happening in 2D. So we just want to check for more stuff. So we'll obviously keep on down the architecture path, structure path, electrical. I think that's a really exciting one. I don't know if anybody's heard, but there's this ginormous data center infrastructure build out around the world happening. So I think that there's a lot that we could do. Our mission's pretty straightforward. Give back time and prevent billions in rework. I think that it can be as simple as Arvinder called it. The biggest insurance companies hate me. They're going to hate me forever. I'm going to stop all these claims, and I want architects to come and sign up and not have to pay less. Like, it seems so obvious. So that's the vision, guys.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm just going to do a quick summary. What we've seen, so a quick recap is that AI and automation are accelerating rapidly in architecture and engineering and construction, which is really great. The real value comes from connected workflows, not isolated tools, which is what we try to demonstrate today. Platforms like Ideatura and Markedup show how design and coordination can begin and integrate more tightly. A huge thank you to you all. So Andrea, Christopher, and Arvinder, thank you very much for being here and sharing your insights. It's been really great. Thank you to everyone who's joined the session across the different channels. The video will be available afterwards. If you would like to stay connected, you can obviously go to AEC Tech Jobs and see the website there. And I've got a newsletter at ad.io, which you can look at. And if you're interested in the partner portal, we've also got the partner portal launch here. So here's the website for that. Hopefully you'll have a great rest of your day. Thanks very much for your time, and we'll finish there. So thanks very much.
Take care.
Cheers, guys.